Hello everyone, here's a quick video on demographics. As we go through this, it may help you to have a pen or paper ready. If you do not have one ready, you may want to pause this and get it out of your binder now. So, to begin, let's define the term demographics. Demographics are statistics that relate to the people within a population or a particular group. Why are demographics important? Well, they tell us about the people around the world. Within particular countries or cities, they can tell us the living conditions, traditions, habits, the economy, and much, much more. When we combine these demographic statistics, we can actually find out pretty much anything we need to know about a group as a whole to get a key idea of what it may look like. Today, there's going to be 6 key demographic terms that we're going to ask for you to know. They are ethnic group, religious group, linguistic group, population density, birth rate, and death rate. Now, if you feel like you need to write these down, you may want to pause the video to do so. We're going to go through each of these words and define them. Then, in later videos and in in-class tutorials, we're going to make sure you know how to find and use each of these key demographic terms. So, here we go. First, ethnic group. When we find an ethnic group, we find people of the same race or nationality who share a distinct culture. For example, Hispanic or Slavic groups. These are people who share a culture. Usually, they also share a history of shared lineage, and with this shared lineage, they may or may not share the same customs. When we look at these ethnic groups, they generally don't belong to a country. We're not saying something like American or Colombian. We're saying a more general term that relates to thousands of years of cultural and historical groupings of people. Next, we have religious group. Religious groups are subgroups with a particular history, tradition, or ideas. These usually relate to a shared theology. What we mean by a shared theology is that they share the same devotion to a supreme being or a supreme belief beyond themselves. Examples of this are Roman Catholic or Sunni Islamic. When we look at religious groups, we can generally tell many of their customs. For instance, most religions have restrictions on moral actions, such as what to eat, how to dress, even how to live life as a whole. When we know what somebody identifies within this country, or the amount of people who identify within a country or city to a particular religious group, we are able to tell the general mood of the morals and beliefs of these people. Next, we have linguistic group. Linguistic group refers to a language family that is related through descent from a common ancestor. What this means, for example, is that these languages all will descend from a common older language throughout history. Our best example of this happens in Europe, particularly southwestern Europe, with the Romance languages. These languages all descend from the Roman language of Latin. Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese all began from within conquered areas of the Roman Empire. After the fall of the Roman Empire, there was a breakup and separation of these people. Over time, their pronunciations of words and even meanings of words changed enough that instead of all speaking Latin, they spoke a regional, very specific language. But because they share the same linguistic group, they often share similar characteristics within their language and often their culture. This is a useful indicator when we're looking at a country. Next, we have population density. This is the amount of people per unit of area. For example, 10 people per mile, or 220 people per mile. If you think of your country like a square, with each mile being 1 mile by 1 mile, the amount of people inside that square will be its density. The people you squish into that square, the more issues are likely to emerge. Things like overcrowding, or a need of new architecture, or even public transportation. In places that are less dense, you'll have issues like communication, distant healthcare, and expensive transportation. Population density can tell us much about the place where we're looking. For instance, if we look at 10 people versus 220 people per mile, we can tell that one country is likely to have particular issues while another country is not, whether it's more or less dense. Birth and death rate are the number of births and deaths per thousand of population per year. The reason we represent it per thousand is very simple. It's very difficult to compare countries of different sizes. A larger country, such as Russia, is very difficult to compare when we're looking at, for instance, Switzerland. These countries' size and populations make it almost impossible to get an accurate number that we can compare. So what we do is we find it out per thousand so that we're able to say 8 people per thousand were born or died within a country within a particular year. When we look at 2 different countries now, we're able to make more accurate comparisons and establish more accurate differences. So to conclude, this video is really just an introduction to basically the terms of these demographic facts. Later videos and in-class tutorials will go over how to use and find these demographics. Please go on to the questions on the next page.